Glory to Jesus Christ. It's the Gen Z Evangelist here. When you visit Ruthenian Byzantine Catholic parishes here in the US, you will probably see this teal green book in pew racks or in the back of churches in the narthex. This is the book of the Divine Liturgies of our Holy Fathers John Chrysostom and Basil the Great, also known as the Revised Divine Liturgy or 2006 translation. Promulgated in 2007 by the Council of Hierarchs of the Ruthenian Byzantine Catholic Metropolis of Pittsburgh in America, led at the time by the late Metropolitan Basil Schott, it is the official Liturgicon or service book and rubrics book used by the Ruthenian Byzantine Catholic parishes in America, as well as I think the Slovak parishes in Canada. Known to most as the Green People's Book, but to many others as the Teal Terror. Is it different from other Byzantine liturgies? Is it more conservative or is it more revisionist? Let's find out. Before the 1990s, the official English-speaking Liturgicon for the Ruthenian Byzantine Catholic parishes in America was the 1964 Divine Liturgy of St. John Chrysostom, English text, by Monsignor William Lefkowitz, who was also the first parish administrator at my parish, St. Nicholas of Myers in Fontana, California. This translation was promulgated in 1965, and in 1976, an English language translation of the Divine Liturgy of St. Basil the Great was promulgated. Both were based upon the 1941 Ruthenian Recension Slavonic Liturgicon issued by the Congregation for the Oriental Churches in Rome. Please remember that this Ruthenian Liturgicon is the official liturgical standard for all the Catholic churches of the Ruthenian Recension. Whether Carpatho-Ruthenian, Ukrainian, also the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church is also called the UGCC, the Slovak, Romanian, or Hungarian. They are also the standard used by some of our separated Orthodox brethren, most notably the American Carpatho-Russian Orthodox Diocese, also known as ACROD, and the Ukrainian Orthodox Church in the USA. Conforming to the 1941 text is highly important, as it is the official standard set by the Holy See. An important source I will be using in this video is the book Studies on the Byzantine Liturgy, number 1, the draft translation, a response to the proposed recasting of the Byzantine Ruthenian Divine Liturgy of St. John Chrysostom, an important critique of the Revised Divine Liturgy by the late Very Reverend Archimandrite Father Serge Keleher, a Russian Greek Catholic priest in the UGCC. I will simply refer to it as Father Serge's study. According to the website of the Metropolitan Cancer Institute, also known as the MCI, the 1964 translation had errors and linguistic differences that differed from the original Greek. So in the 1990s, the Inter-Eparchial Liturgical Commission had to improve these translations. For example, in the hymn, We Bow to Thy Cross, which replaces the Trisagion on certain days, the new 2006 translation has We Glorify, in Slavonic, Slavim, Your Holy Resurrection, instead of We Praise Your Holy Resurrection.
And we glorify Your Holy Resurrection.
Also, the translation of the Slavonic word Bohoroditsa as Mother of God, or as Akrot says it, birth giver of God, was fixed so it could just stay as the original Greek word Theotokos. Apparently, these and many other more alterations were done to match with our separated Eastern Orthodox brethren. Also, the Great Litany Petition, which said for those who travel by sea and land, was changed to for those who travel by sea, air, and land, to acknowledge that most modern travel nowadays is by airplane. Now enough with improvements. Let's go to other changes. In the anaphora, the words of all and for all, which in Greek is kata panta kedia panta, and in Slavonic of sich if sia, was erroneously translated as always and everywhere instead of all and for all. In the baptismal hymn, all you who have been baptized into Christ, which replaces the Trisagion hymn on some days, the new text tells the faithful that they have been clothed with Christ, rather than have put on Christ, apparently because of the modern definition and connotation of putting someone on. Although the words clothed with Christ make sense with the original Greek enedisaste, or Slavonic oblikotes, to put on is a better literal translation. A controversial change in the 2006 translation is inclusive language. Instead of saying mankind, as in the saying, for thou art good and lovest mankind, which is the literal translation of the Greek word philanthropos and Slavonic chelovikoliubets, the translation was changed to say, for you are good and love us all. This awkward translation, done for gender inclusivity, makes no sense, as it may exclude those who are not present at church and is not faithful to the liturgical text. Father Serge's study also mentions the priest's prayer during the Trisagion hymn, which says, you created us in your own image and likeness, instead of you created man after your own image and likeness, from the Slavonic cholovika. In the Beatitudes, the Revised Divine Liturgy says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God, instead of sons of God. In the New Testament, that phrase is iitheu, sons of God, not teknatheu, which is the children of God, which is what the Revised Divine Liturgy is trying to say, trying to be more inclusive. In the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed, the creed says, for us and for our salvation, dropping the word men. This, like all the other previous examples, is unfaithful to the Greek word anthropos, which means men, but in a gender-neutral context. Even the creed as written in the English version of the Latin Rite Novus Ordo Missal, which has the tendency or reputation of being known as too liberal and inclusive, shown on the website of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, also says, for us men. Inclusive language, which is politically influenced from progressives, makes it harder to achieve the goal of uniform liturgy with our separated Eastern Orthodox brethren, because none of them use inclusive language, nor is inclusive language faithful to the original. Inclusive language is also condemned by the 2001 Congregation for the Divine Worship document, Liturgiam Authenticam, which says in section 30, certain expressions that belong to the heritage of the whole church are to be maintained, especially when they are rooted in sacred scripture. Thus, for example, in referring to the faithful, it is not acceptable to substitute the words sons or brothers for expressions such as people, friends, or beloved, or to change phrases such as, O God, who has prepared good things for those who love you, to for those who love you and love their neighbor, end quote. The late Pope Benedict XVI, as Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger said regarding inclusive language, we can have these new translations, but at the same time, the official language of the church in liturgy and catechesis has preserved some continuity. Here are some more translation errors and differences. Back with the creed, the translation of homoousion, describing the son's relationship with the father, was changed to essence, as in of one essence with the father, which matches more with the Slavonic jedinosushna, meaning of one essence, instead of the more Western substance, like in consubstantial. This is actually a good improvement. The creed in the Revised Liturgy has many other revisions, mostly minor grammatical ones, such as the removal of the filioque, one of the only other good changes in this new liturgy. The Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed conforms to the Greek or Niconian usage instead of the pre-Niconian usage that is currently used mainly by old ritualists and old believers today. In the 2006 translation, the Greek word orthodoxos, in Slavonic pravoslavny, when referring to right-believing Christians, is translated as Christians of the true faith instead of the usual Orthodox Christians. This was most likely done to avoid confusion with our separated Eastern Orthodox brethren, but as Father Nathan Simeon Adams once said,
orthodoxy is something that every Christian should affirm.
The UGCC and the Melkites translate this word correctly, so there is no reason why we shouldn't. Anyways, Father Serge's study mentions the first prayer of the faithful, or prayer of offering, and on the new text, it refers to the people's failings, or in the 1964 text, transgressions. The word translated as failings or transgressions in the original Greek is agnoimaton, as how it appears in Acts 2:17, or in Slavonic, nevidinich, actually means ignorances. The translation isn't that bad, but it's still good to keep the original meaning, as it reminds us that sin comes from ignorance. Father Serge also mentions the priest's prayer during the petition for the departed, where the priest prays for the departed to be in a place of joy and peace, or in the 1964, joy and repose. The text actually talks about a place of refreshment or verdure, or in Slavonic, vmistis lachni. The Slavonic text for the people's response to the deacon's invitation to approach for Holy Communion is Blahosloven Kyadi vo imя Hospodne, bo Hospod javisia nam, which in English is, Blessed is he who cometh in the name of the Lord, God the Lord hath revealed himself to us. However, according to the MCI website, the Revised Liturgy says, Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord is God and has revealed himself to us, which clearly is not a translation of the Slavonic. Apparently, the reason for this is theological, that the Slavonic Bohospodi is not a title, but a statement that the Lord, Hospod, who is Christ, is actually God rather than some lesser divine being like in Arianism. This change actually makes sense. Instead of the deacon referring to the celebrant, whether bishop or presbyter, as master or lord, in Slavonic Vladika or Greek Kyrios, a practice done by literally everyone who uses the Byzantine Rite, the 2006 translation has the deacon called the celebrant Reverend Father. This also makes ecumenical liturgical cooperation harder by making a unique title that, compared to other original languages, makes no sense, nor does exist in any other jurisdiction. Speaking of addressing hierarchs, in the Great Litany, as well as in all other commemorations, the Pope of Rome is referred to as our Holy Ecumenical Pontiff, in Slavonic, Sviatishim Selenstim Archireinashim, literally Universal Archpriest or Universal Hierarch. While the Revised Divine Liturgy simply says our Holy Father. Not only does this not conform to the 1941 text, it may imply that we reject papal supremacy. However, this may have been done in order to respect the similar title of Ecumenical Patriarch that the Patriarch of Constantinople has had since the Council of Chalcedon. The UGCC continues to call the Pope of Rome the Most Holy Universal Pontiff. A translation which exists in both the 1964 and 2006 Liturgicons is a translation of the Greek phrase Istouseon Astoneonon, or in Slavonic, either Voviki Viko or Voviki Vikom, into now and ever and forever. Akrod also does this. The UGCC says now and forever and ever. This translation, and although done with dynamic equivalence, reflecting the meaning of the phrase and not its literal definition, and having been the historical translation used by English speakers for that biblical phrase since the era of the 1611 Authorized Version, also known as the King James, the translation unto ages of ages or and to ages of ages, the former used by almost all other Eastern Orthodox churches, is preferable. Another shared error is in the Dostoino Jest, or it is truly meet, the hymn to the Theotokos after the anaphora. Both say it is truly proper to glorify you.
It is truly proper to glorify you, O Theotokos.
The word translated as glorify in Slavonic is blажiti, which means bless, not glorify. The English liturgicons of the UGCC, the Orthodox Church in America, the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese in America, the Antiochian Archdiocese, and the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia, or ROKOR, all translate this correctly. A clear difference between the 2006 translation and the more traditional liturgy is the inaudible anaphora prayer and the other silent prayers. Traditionally, in the Ruthenian recension, the priest says the anaphora prayers quietly. While the people chant, it is proper and just to worship the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, the Trinity, one in essence and undivided. The response to let us give thanks to the Lord. While the new liturgy eliminates all the silent prayers altogether, making the priest say the entire anaphora out loud, or sometimes priests won't even say the silent prayers altogether. And the response? It's just cut down to it is proper and just, imitating the Greeks and ignoring the sacred traditions of the Ruthenian people, just to simplify and conform to the so-called original Greek. Actually, parts of the canon were always prayed in silence, as Pope Benedict XVI wrote in his book, The Spirit of the Liturgy. The majority of our separated brethren in the Slavic Orthodox churches usually do not audibly say most of the anaphora and many other prayers, but with the mandatory audible prayers, as John Vernovsky said in his May 2007 summary of violations in the 2006 translation, which can be found in the Byzantine Forum, the newly promulgated revision distances us from the historic and contemporary practice in Orthodoxy. While the official liturgical books of the Ruthenian Recension were a model of liturgical unity with Orthodoxy, this new revision introduces division, end quote. This will make ecumenical liturgical cooperation harder and harder. The exordium in Father Serge's text, written by Melkite Patriarch Maximos IV, for a number of reasons, including the need to avoid any fresh differences with our separated brethren, The Eastern Catholic Church must avoid any idea of adapting its rites without prior agreement with the corresponding branches of the Orthodox Church." End quote. Unusually, or ironically, however, the first occasion in the modern era in which it was mandatory in a Byzantine Rite church to say the anaphora out loud was in an Eastern Orthodox church by the Soviet-sponsored pro-communist revisionist or living church in the 1920s. This was condemned by the later martyred Tikhon, Patriarch of Moscow and Bishop of the Americans. This shows that we must avoid modernist innovations and tendencies because the modernists, secularists, and communists also are the ones to start this. Another large difference between the original text and the revised Divine Liturgy is the abbreviation of the liturgy. In the 2006 translation, all the antiphons and their weekly typical psalms are abbreviated into one verse, and the small litanies which are supposed to be prayed between each are not even said. Apparently, even Akron does this with their antiphons, and at the UGCC also abbreviates antiphons sometimes, but it is only optional. The UGCC usually skips the second antiphon. The prayer for the faithful, usually said after the litany for the departed and the litany for the catechumens, both of which are already rarely even said, are not even intoned. Liturgy, according to the Byzantine Forum thread regarding the revised Divine Liturgy in 2024, says that the music of the 2006 text is unsingable and clunky. The thread says that the music is clearly made by, according to a quote from it, "do not speak English as their first language," end quote. According to Cantor Steve Petak, the main problem with the new music is that it does not respect what the people have memorized and taken to heart, end quote. Also, according to him, the notations written by Father Ivan Bokshai in 1906 with his Slavonic and Hungarian liturgical music books, Cerkovnoye Prostopinie and Ehazikeznekek, should be the standard and has been the standard to keep music aligned to the traditions of the Mother Church in Mukachovo and its cathedral in Ushhorod. The MCI says that the new music was introduced in order to align everything to Prostopinie, which is the traditional liturgical chant of the historically Rusian churches, whether Ruthenian, Slovak, Hungarian, or Serbo-Croat, and is descended from Znameni, the chant currently used by pre-Niconian ritualist Russians, and was formerly the most popular chanting style in the Russian Orthodox Church. Fun fact, Prostopinie means simple or plain chant. As you may now see, there has been significant revision and modernization of the liturgy, practically novus ordoing our liturgy. Basically, the question is answered. The 2006 Divine Liturgy is more revisionist than conservative. So if the revised Divine Liturgy isn't a good text, what should we do? Well, number one, pray. Do not be disobedient. Continue to attend the liturgy, as there is currently no liturgical or alternative for Ruthenian Byzantine Catholics other than the Green Book. Number two, we should petition our current hierarchs and clergy for a liturgy more faithful to the historic Slavonic text. Apparently, Bishop Kurt Burnett is open to supporting a change in the liturgy and returning it to what it should be. According to the Byzantine Forum, Kurt has been in returning to saying mankind at the ends of prayers and referring to the Pope of Rome as ecumenical pontiff, and allowing the practice of Ruthenian rubrics in St. Mary's Parish in New York City. In his eparchy, specifically in his Cathedral of St. Michael's, Father Jack Custer celebrates the liturgy finishing prayers with mankind instead of loves us all as well.
Christ our God is gracious and he loves mankind.
On the opposite end of the opinion spectrum, according to the Forum, is the great liturgist and member of the Inter-Eparchial Liturgical Commission, the current bishop of the Eparchy of Parma of the Ruthenians, Vladika Robert Pipta, who is strongly in favor of the revised liturgy. Metropolitan William of Pittsburgh apparently has no interest in a better liturgy but favors the old text, and the opinion of Vladika Artur Bubnevich of my own Eparchy of Phoenix is unknown, but he has said that the wording in the English translation of the liturgy that we use now is quote-unquote weird. Throughout the clergy overall, the opinion is diverse. Hopefully the hierarchs will listen to the petitions of certain faithful, and even the Vatican Dicastery for Divine Worship can get involved, see the violations and changes in the revised Divine Liturgy, and give us a better traditional, faithful, de-Latinized vernacular Divine Liturgy. In making this liturgy, we should cooperate with all English-speaking Slavonic Reception Byzantine Christians throughout the world. We could use Akrod's Blue Book or the UGCC's Black Book as basis. This future liturgy should also be used by those who use the Byzantine, Greek, Georgian, or Antiochian Byzantine recensions too, as there's only a few minor differences. What is unique to each particular church and their tradition should be kept by that particular church and their variant of this same unified English liturgy. Personally, I'd like to see traditional archaic English used for us, as well as a pre-Niconian and translation for the future Ruthenian liturgy, but that will probably not happen as practically all rites now use modern English in the Eastern Catholic churches, and a pre-Niconian text, although with very minor differences, could certainly be controversial. A translation faithful to the standard Slavonic text given in 1941 to be used by English-speaking Ruthenian Byzantine Catholics should be enough. The full PDF of Father Serge's study, which has more information on the Liturgical Revision, has more details and is in the Byzantine Forum, and I will attach the link to the thread that has it in the description below. I suggest reading it as it gives way more explanation on the Liturgical Revision. This video is clearly longer than my usual videos, and it's detailed in itself, so I appreciate that you've made it this long into the video without clicking off. This video kind of became an apologetics video due to arguing both for and against the liturgical revisions, but I'm just here to give you information. Thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. As always, give glory to Jesus Christ. Slava Isusu Christu. Slava Varviki.